Across the Bug River, turn 3. Hi, my name's Neil and welcome to Diagonal Move. First thing I need to do before we jump into this turn overview is say that I have been mispronouncing bug horribly the whole of the last two videos. One of my viewers commented on the previous video that the sound in bug doesn't really exist in the languages of the region of Eastern Europe that we're in at the moment, and really it's more of an oo sound, so the correct pronunciation, or as correct as I can get it, is actually bug. So this is Across the Bug River, turn 3. Hopefully I will mispronounce it less frequently going forward, and thank you again to the viewer for highlighting my mistake there. So what is going on at the start of this turn? Well, we have replaced various replacement points. We do get replacement points as the German side, and I've used those replacement points to restore some tank points up in this region here, as well as some infantry points just along here in the areas where we're about to go into combat this turn. The Soviets have sacrificed some of their border guards to build up some units as well that are soon about to go into combat. Now, the most important thing about this turn though, well, two quite important things. Firstly, the interdiction level has gone up, which is quite unfortunate really, because this is where the Soviets really could do with some activations, but obviously with an interdiction at higher levels of interdiction, the fewer formation activations the Soviets actually have. The other key thing about this turn going into it is that we have some reinforcements, and those reinforcements are, for the Germans, the 13th Panzer, this great big long line of units here, which are currently all stacked off to the western edge of the map, just there. Now hopefully they are going to come either up this road and railway here, or they're going to try and come down and across that way. They're obviously motorised, so they are relatively fast compared to some of the other units, particularly on the road. So it may be just as effective to come down and across the pontoon as it is to try and fight my way through the town here of Ostilia. The other element of reinforcements that we have this turn is on the Soviet side, and we have two. The first set of reinforcements are our 1st Artillery Brigade. Now these are a new type of unit for this series. They are anti-tank, and they are, as you can see from the central square on those counters, they are reasonably good at anti-tank, which the name perhaps gives away. But that 3 in the centre of that counter there, that is the number of points you can deduct from the tank points of the panzer units, for example, in order to level out some of that armoured superiority. So they will be very helpful as a roadblock against panzers when the panzers get going. Second bunch of Soviet units we have here are the 135th Rifles, half the unit coming on this turn, half coming on next, and these are relatively strong actually for a Russian infantry unit at this point of the game. So we'll see what effect that these guys can have. The only minor hitch from a Soviet point of view is that we are all the way over this side of the map, so about as far away from the front line as you can possibly get at the moment, and the first time we're looking at the map in full on this side of the board. So we have the anti-tanks just here around the city of Turchin, and then around Zatusti we have the 135th. And from a Soviet point of view, the aim really, let's get these guys as far this way as possible to try and defend, if not the city of Volodymyr-Volynski and Poritsk, which is here and here, at least get them to Lokachi and the defending area there. Okay, we are 2/3, 3/4-ish through turn number 3. The position now at this point is very much of the German forces having punched right through, they've gone all the way across the map towards the town here, which is actually a victory point condition, or a conditional victory point hex for turn 4, so next turn. So the infantry there, the 299th infantry, gone straight through that hole towards the victory point target for next turn, which is a huge move or gain of territory for that particular division. The 111th down the bottom, we have taken the town of Poritsk, which should count for victory points at the end of the game, because we have taken it at the end of turn 3. That is one, or before the end of turn 3. That's one of the victory conditions, or conditional victory points. I keep saying that the wrong way around. But there's a few quirks around how that works. So I'll go into whether or not we've actually got that hex as victory points towards the end of the game, towards the end of the turn, and when I do the end of the turn kind of summary. Here, just here, they are the 44th infantry on the German side, these kind of green ones. They're pushing up now, pushing the Russian Soviets ever further back towards Volodymyr Volynski, as are the 298th, the lighter blue ones. And the 14th Panzers, the units just here, they've finally done something. They've finally got going. They've crossed the river, admittedly going around this way, as I mentioned earlier, and they're now about to start punching their way down that main road towards the town of Volodymyr Volynski. Whether we can do that before the end of the turn, not sure. The Soviets have got this kind of like nice defensive line, sort of a 2-layer defensive line there. Yeah, maybe we will do it, maybe we won't. Not a huge amount of activations left for anybody really on the German side. A couple each for the 298th and the 14th and the 44th. But what the Germans do have, and it's just out of shot there, is the, which I think you can see them just there. That is the 14th Panzer, sorry, the 13th Panzers. Brand new, fresh division, 7 full activations. If they can get through, if there's a whole sort of gap here, they will go straight forward if they can. Otherwise, they're going to have to come down a more circuitous route and then across country through the gap that's been made. We'll see what happens. I'm going to wait until the others have used all their activations and then do what I can with those from the German side. Soviets. Wow, what to say about the Soviets? They really haven't had a very good beginning part of the turn, as I think I mentioned with a previous turn. They've been very much on the back foot the whole time, constantly having to sit in defensive positions. The town here, the town of Poritsk, the 124th Rifles, I think they are, put a valiant defence of the town, but now we're isolated, out of command. Basically, time's run out really down there for them, I think. Over on the victory point for next turn, Vucasim, the 135th, who are reinforcements for this turn, have made contact with the 299, so hopefully stopping their advance. The anti-tanks over here are making their way up the main road, but some dreadful rolls. I mean, 5 formation activations, rolling a 1, haven't got the re-roll token. You're only moving 1 unit at a time at best, so pretty horrendous rolling down on that eastern side there for the anti-tank divisions. And the other thing that is really proving problematic for the Soviets is even if you can get close, just try and zoom in a bit rather than bring the camera up. Even if you can get close, the German divisions are twice the strength of the Soviets. So I mean, here we have a Rifles of 4, Soviets are 8. If they're in any kind of defensive terrain, you're at a kind of a 1 to 2 already before you even even do anything else, and that's pretty horrible. So it inclines the Soviet side to a defensive position. Were it not for these, which I sort of waved around earlier without mentioning them, but these are the counterattack orders. And I think these are the reason, or trying to get rid of these are the reason the 14th Panzers on the German side have come through so much. Because around the town here of Worcester, the Germans had some bad rolls, and I tried to use these counters to, or to spend these counters, shall we say. You have to use them by committing a prepared attack. If you don't, the Germans get victory points at the end of the game for the number of these you have remaining. Start the game with 3, and then I think another 3 come on either next turn or the turn after. Either way, you've got loads of them to get rid of before the end of the game, and you don't want to be giving away victory points for these unspent orders. But because you're such a weaker force than the Germans, the 41st tanks that was attacking just got pasted, and the 14th Panzers rolled straight over them and straight through, got the town, and now hopefully have got through from that German point of view. But from the Soviet point of view, pretty terrible, because we ended up pulling everybody back. Quite how the Soviets are going to turn this round at this point, I really don't know. Let's play out the end of the turn, and I'll think about that a little bit later, and I'll also talk about why this may or may not, I'm not 100% sure yet, be a victory point hex for us at the end of this turn. I think we've now reached the end of the turn. There's probably a few more activations for a few handful of divisions, but I think that's realistically the end of the turn. And what an eventful end of the turn it was. I was expecting it to be quite a non-event actually, but no, there was a huge amount of interesting elements at that final last few activations, and in particular down here, the town of Vucasim, which is next turn's conditional victory hex for the Germans. At the end of the last update, it was controlled by the Germans. Looked like the Russians had no chance of taking that back, but actually we did. The Soviets, despite having 2/3 the strength, half the strength even in some cases, managed to be sufficiently surrounded, or surrounding the Wehrmacht forces in the town, and combination of lucky die rolls, combat support, and the headquarter bonus for the counter there, meant that not only did we successfully force them to retreat, but we actually took this fairly chunky unit of 8 strength points down to just the 1 strength point. Very nearly destroyed the entire division with that one attack by a relatively weak force, which is kind of cool, really. And really has changed the picture over in this part of the map completely, because now the Germans are having, rather than to hold on, shall we say, to the end of the turn, they're now going to take that back, and the forces are coming. They're definitely coming, but they're going to be a few activations away before making much of a difference. So we're going to have to see what happens there. And the other interesting element here was what's happened up at the top. The infantry and the 14th Panzers, so that's the light blue counters, these sort of teal coloured counters, and then the black edge counters there, finally began working together properly, and we've broken what was the defensive line of the Soviet 87th and the I think it's called the fortified region units, identified with this kind of FR symbol there. Not sure if you can even see that, but there's an FR symbol. That's the fortified region units. But the panzers and the infantry between them broke it, pushed them right back. Units of the fortified region have now come over here to try and reposition to prevent what has been a storming advance by the newly introduced 13th Panzers, who have managed to get from all the way sort of off the map there, all the way across deep into Soviet territory. So very, very rapid advance there. Not going to get the conditional victory points for Volodymyr Zelensky. That is still held on to by the Soviets by the skin of their teeth, but we may, and I just need to check this now, we may have this hex down here, which is the town of Poritsk. Now the reason we may have it as the German side is because the rules are slightly different. The control of the hex is the person or the side that was last in there, but not only do you have to have previously had units in there, they have to be in command and within a certain supply route to the supply formation. Now in the German side there's quite a broad supply area down here and up here, so that supply line can be of any length, but I think it's only 5 hexes can be off-road or off-rail. So really we have to follow these sort of road, the pale lines there, the roads, and the lines there are cutting across that way to the rail. So we have to get from that hex to here without any zone of control interruptions, going through any enemy units, and only spending 5 hexes worth of points, 5 hexes worth off the actual main roads. And that's going to be quite difficult because if I recall correctly, we can't go across the stream. Just check the rules and sort of bold text here. It says the line cannot cross an unbridged Bug River or Lake hex side, and all other hexes must be traced using road or ways, with the exception of those 5 that can be off-road. So I think we're okay with this stream, which is quite important because although isolated and out of command, these units are not disrupted, which means, as far as I understand it at least, they still project that zone of control, which would interrupt the trace of supply this way. So we'll sort of have a look. We'll sort of go 1, 2, 3, 4 down here, cut across 5, and then so we're okay. I think we're okay. The effects of zone of control don't apply if you go through a unit. So I think we're good for the victory points for that hex there for the Germans. So that's 1 victory point to them at the end of the game for that condition. The interesting question here that I have, and there was a few helpful comments around how I could possibly have conquered this area up the top here a little bit easier with the German panzer units of the 14th. Some of the comments were quite helpful in that regard and how to overcome that initial barrier there. But what I'm wondering now is what on earth can the Soviet player do to prevent this ever advancing German army? It definitely feels very one-sided at the moment. Now there are a bunch of reinforcements coming on, and we'll look at those perhaps in the next video, but there are a few reinforcements coming on, and many of the victory hexes, aside from those conditional ones, are kind of dotted on the very far side of the map here, and also there's a couple right at the top there. So I'm just wondering, what can the Soviet player do? Any comments, thoughts, please put them in there, and I'll try and factor those into my play over the next couple of turns, because at the moment I'm struggling to see what they can actually do to stop this advance. Or maybe, as it's a sliding scale of German success, maybe the Germans will inevitably get all the way across the map, and we just need to stop them tracing those lines of command for the victory point hexes and not losing so many soldiers as well. But anyway, that's enough for turn 3. I'll see you again turn 4.